Okay, I think we're moving to the next set of pictures. So one of the questions that we had, will LANO be implementing additional stormwater mitigations to address increased runoff and erosion from the burn area? And that answer is yes. We not only did we have to go in, like, again, the day we were allowed back into the laboratory, knowing what happened during Cerro Grande, knowing the bears, the burned area response teams, analysis of where they thought there could be flooding associated with the burn, we went in and we moved investigation-derived waste that we had generated executing the consent order that was temporarily stored in the canyon bottom. So quite an effort to move waste from the canyon bottoms. We took and emptied the retention structures, sediment and flood retention structures. We emptied those units so that they, not only since we've captured some of the sediment that was contaminated, we could dispose of that before it got redispersed by floodwaters, but we also were able to increase the holding capacity in those structures. We also, I guess we also armored buildings and infrastructure, gas lines, telephone lines, some of our investigation wells that we drill as part of the program to try to bound the extent of a particular investigation. We had to go in and armor those wellheads so that we didn't have the opportunity for floodwaters to come down the canyon and go straight down a groundwater monitoring well, which would have been disastrous. So we put bladders in those, big balloons, we weld the caps on, and we set Jersey bouncers in front of them in an attempt to protect those from any sort of floodwaters. The actual stormwater impacts that we've seen in Los Alamos so far, there's a few pictures there, but we have had runoff coming onto the laboratory property from Water Canyon and Pajarito Canyon, which were the two canyons that the Bear team, said we would get run on to the laboratory from. We did experience that. We have not seen any flow onto the laboratory property yet from Los Alamos Canyon. And we have been working with the county. The county owns a reservoir up gradient of the laboratory, and that reservoir was being reconstructed since the Cerro Grande fire washed it out. And we worked with the state's engineer's office and the county to assure that the county would keep that reservoir in place to manage any flows, and they could be released, controlled. The water and ash could be controlled release back into the canyon bottom that would not threaten any historically contaminated sites at a level that would be normal for that canyon. So they actually are providing us a speed bump up gradient from the laboratory that we believe is the main reason why we haven't seen anything flow onto Los Alamos, into Los Alamos Canyon yet on laboratory property. There was a question that what do we expect to see? I think I've covered this. We're going to see floods. We saw pretty tenacious flows associated with the Cerro Grande fire, which was a different, let me just say, Cerro Grande fire was a different beast than this fire. I think what we saw were the hydrophobic soil associated with acreage that was just moonscape, and this fire has a lot more patchy burns, and so different intensity of the burn makes it harder to calculate what sort of infiltration or runoff we're going to be seeing in these watersheds. So we're going back out, we're flying over these areas with hydrologists, and I guess we're saying we're doing a little more in-depth observation of what may occur in these watersheds in an attempt to do the right mitigative measures associated with those burns. We're going to see transport of large amounts of ash. Not only, well, we haven't seen it come across the lab property yet, but we're going to see that in general as associated with this fire. And we're going to see sediment moved. We're going to see woody material moved down the canyon systems. We've seen that already coming out of I think Bandelier has experienced it, but we also have seen some come out of Wahi Canyon. So wherever this erosion and flooding occurs, it leaves a signature. It's unmistakable. You can see the black flow coming out of the burn area. As a result of seeing those flows and sampling those flows, we're going to see elevated radioactivity in those flows. We're going to see elevated metals in those flows. Some of that will be a result of natural processes, and some of it will be a result of atmospheric sources, and some of it may be a result if we flow across Los Alamos property of sediments and associated with historical contaminated sites. Again, we haven't seen that yet. We've been lucky so far, but we do expect these type of conditions to occur for the next couple of years. And that's what we saw with Cerro Grande fire, is we're going to have these floods in these canyon systems lasting 2 or 3 years. We go, I think I got one more slide there. This is a map, a burn intensity map, and what this map shows is the intensity of the fire is the colorful piece on the left, and the other part of that map, I apologize for the resolution, but there are different color rectangles on that map, red, green, and yellow, and they represent sampling locations that the laboratory is currently has up and running and sampling both water coming onto the lab and water leaving the lab. And we're also coordinating with our neighbors, Bandelier, to monitor for them activity coming down for Holy's Canyon. We have offered assistance in monitoring, not monetary assistance, but we have offered to set up stormwater sampling gauges on San Ildefonso and other Pueblo properties if they would like to integrate with our sampling system. The yellow rectangles over there represent the oversight bureau's sampling locations. The red ones represent what we have bolstered since Cerro Grande, Los Conchas, thank you, fire. So we have bolstered existing systems, bolstered analytes that we expect to see, and we have the other, the green represents another 21 or so stations that we sample as part of our environmental surveillance program. So there's roughly 40 samplers out there that we're looking at analyzing in a quick turnaround fashion the stuff coming onto the lab, off the lab. And I guess I know I'm out of town, but I need time, but I need to tell you that we are posting this data to RACER. We've got a challenge in front of us because the air data went on to RACER so quickly. Water analysis is a little more complicated. And so we roughly have about a 3-week turnaround on our water samples before we can post to RACER. We only have one sample that's made it to RACER so far, and we have had 5 events where we have collected samples. So, I'm sorry, we've collected 17 samples with 5 events now come back and going through a validation process that we'll post on RACER.
Thank you, Dave.